everybody. Thank you for coming today. It is February 24th, and we're here for the winter sowing and chicken wire cloche program with the Laurelwood Arboretum and Wayne Public Library collaboration. We're very happy and to be able to welcome Rashmi Dhekne back. This is her second program with us, her first being about fall gardening, and you can watch it on the Wayne Public Library YouTube page. She did a great job last fall, and she's going to do a great job today. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Okay, so we're going to talk about winter sowing today. I'm Rashmi Dhekne. I'm also a Master Gardener intern with the Passaic County program. It's really lovely to see faces. I did do a Zoom presentation last fall, but I figured this was even better because I do like to talk to people. So okay, before so most of you here are gardeners. I'm guessing all of you here are gardeners since you're here. Okay, we'll make a convert out of you. So roughly around November, when you've done everything, like the garden's going dormant, you waited for the first freeze. The most you've done is like put fertilizer, compost, covered it with mulch, because you wait for the ground to freeze before you cover it with mulch. That's about it. Then you enjoy the holidays. Then you don't have anything to do in the garden, and you look out and everything's sleeping. But actually, this thing called winter sowing, which, by the way, I just have to read this little part to you. According to the US Department of Agriculture, and they coined this term in 2006, a propagation method used throughout the winter where temperate climate seeds are sown into protective vented containers and placed outdoors to foster a naturally timed high percentage germination of climate tolerant seeds. So in this in this paragraph, you get a couple of things that you should understand. They're talking about temperate climate seeds. We do not deal with tropical seeds here. If you want, it's not very successful when you winter sow anything like tropical seeds. So you want to stick with anything that is, like for example, it's already grown in your garden. Why do you winter sow? So the plants already do it. They do winter sowing, obviously. They shed their seeds and they wait for them throughout the winter. And then obviously they'll take root in spring. One of the things you're trying to control this in a way that those seeds can get washed away, that can get eaten by animals. You don't want, like for example, I have salvia growing in my front yard. When it rains or snows and there's a lot of it, they usually end up somewhere in the back of my yard in the shade. They will sprout, they will grow, but they don't flower. Second thing is, you have animals or birds, insects, they can eat those seeds that have fallen. So in a way, you're trying to control that part of the equation, which nature actually does provide. So you can sow perennials, annuals, you can sow native plants, cool season vegetables, warm season vegetables. I'm just reading this out for you. So, before you do anything, when you start to winter sow, you need a container, you need soil. So you'll go around finding milk jugs. If you don't drink milk, find like maybe Starbucks. Okay, she said. Yeah, so like a local coffee place, which you can actually, get these from them. I've found that I love these containers. They are not anti-freeze containers. Please don't get them. If they have a skull and bones on it, you do not want that. It means it's poisonous. The contents are poisonous. You don't want to grow anything in there. This is actually a vinegar container. So if any of your neighbors are throwing out vinegar containers, go grab them. This was my neighbor on the corner, so I'm very thankful to her. This is more or less ideal for me. You need to make sure that you can see your thumb or your finger through it. So it needs to be transparent enough for you to be able to do that. So the plants will grow then inside. Milk jugs are considered ideal. So you don't need the cap. You throw that away. any of these, just remember, just get rid of them. This was a lovely thing. I was so excited when I saw it, and I'm like, it's going to be fantastic. Unfortunately, you need about 3.5 inches of soil at the bottom, and this kind of negates it. So all you can do is kind of sow in the edges. Might as well get another one. This is a lovely container. This is completely transparent. You're going to have, it does have a little bit of a divot, but it's not too much. You can put about 3.5 to 4 inches of soil in the bottom. So the first thing you do is you take this, you take an empty milk jug. So with all the other containers, we'll just start with the milk jug, and I'll show you with the milk jug itself. You take one of these, you rinse it out carefully, you get rid of everything that was in it, soap and water, warm water and soap. Then so you have a handle here. You're going to leave a hinge, say about here. You poke holes. There are many, many different ways that people do this. So what they'll do is, for example, they'll take like a coffee cup, they'll turn it upside down, they'll put a marker around that level, put a tape on it, and then they'll spin it. So it'll create like a mark. So that's one of the ways that I've seen people do that. You can just eyeball it. You don't really need to go. You've got, so normally what I do is I have a soldering iron at home, or I have something that heats up. It's an element. So I will punch holes in the bottom. So before you cut, usually what I do is I punch holes with the soldering iron. So I don't need that much of, I don't need to make this cut for, I don't have to watch out to make this cut first. But normally what you would do is you would punch holes before you make this cut. If you have a soldering iron, it doesn't matter. So, like for instance, this one, I use this, but there are like a lot of products available. When you get into winter sowing, there are a lot of products that people use. There's actually a whole punch that's sold for these things, and you get like a kit. You don't have to go all crazy, but once you get deep into it, you can go all crazy. So yeah, this is your basic thing that you need. Then, oh yeah, after you've done all this, you've got a lot of jugs ready. You might, if you already have soil, you need potting soil with compost. If you have that in your storage, get it out. Put it in your furnace room or in your garage and thaw it out. Because you're going to be doing this in the middle of winter or at the beginning of winter. And you don't want to actually, let's say this is one step that you need to take care of. But if you're going to the garden center and getting soil, you need potting soil with compost. You get that out. Okay. So you all know what dried soil looks like. It's lighter in color. It's more friable. When you pour it out, it looks like that. When you put water in it, it should look like that. Yeah, try not to spill some. But so essentially you're going to moisten your soil before you put it in the jug. Now, people wonder why don't you use garden soil? Like you have so much garden soil. First of all, it's going to be frozen. Second of all, a garden soil will contain seeds. It might contain weed seeds. You don't want that growing in here. Once you mix this in, pour a little more water. You could turn it into batter. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. It becomes almost like you're gooping it in there, for lack of better words. So you'd need about You'd need to fill it to about here. And then you kind of tamp it down as you go. So this is a little less than I would have normally filled at home, but this is for demonstration purposes. But what the heck, let's go all the way. Okay, so you push it down. You've got about 3.5 inches to 4 inches of soil. You require that much for the seeds to, if they do sprout, and you need to keep them in there for a while. If it's really cold, you've got, you still want to wait. You have enough room for them to grow a big root system before you can transplant them. So this is what you would do. This is what it would look like. See that? Okay, so then you would let it drain. This is the best thing. If you see this, you've done it right. Okay, then you grab your seeds. Now the thing with the seeds is, you have to look at your garden. You decide what you want to grow. First, do you have enough space for annuals? Do you have enough space for perennials? This thing does have a very large germination rate. Almost 75% of your seeds will grow, even more than that. But you want to first decide what you want to grow and where, like literally where you have space. You have space in the sun, you have space in the shade. When you start winter sowing, one thing you notice is that people kind of go overboard, which is kind of nice, but you find you have a lot more saplings than you really require. So find seeds that you really want to grow. Okay, in the back of your handout, I've given you there's a comprehensive list for winter sowers. This pretty much includes everything you can get. There are, so you have like so for example, the one I'm showing you right now is a purple coneflower. It's echinacea. You look on the package, it should say hardy perennial, which will mean that it will do well. It will do well for winter sowing. Okay. So then these seeds are pretty big. Sometimes you get seeds which are really tiny. You don't want to, okay, let me, oh yeah. So when you have seeds which are big, that's nice. You can do about 10. Think of this as planting outside. You don't want to grow too many in here. Some people will scatter a lot of seeds, a handful of seeds. For this size of a container, 9 to 10 seeds is more than enough. 9 if I was doing it. 10, and kind of stay away from the edges, and then you kind of sprinkle them on the surface. I don't know if you can see, but there's something called frass in a lot of the seeds, which looks like it's not seed, but it's like the cover of the seed. So you can kind of err on the side of, I threw more and then just surface, that's it. Then you kind of gently push it down. You should be able to still see the seeds in a way. This one's much easier. When you want to do seeds which are really tiny and they're brown or black in color, it's snowing outside. It's finished snowing. You're doing this. You go out in the middle of your yard, not on the sides where the snow shovel has pushed the salted snow onto the side. You go out to fresh snow. You pick out, grab a shovel, you scrape off one layer, cover it. It's obviously white. Then when you sow your black seeds, it's easier to see. And then you just set it in there, and then when it settles in, it actually plants itself. A lot of seeds need cold stratification. which essentially mean that it's called winter stratification or cold stratification. The seeds are there, like for them to sprout, they need 4 to 6 weeks of cold. Some seeds need less, some seeds need more. So you'd, for example, wait, where is my thing? Okay, so I got some seeds in the mail. They actually sent the seeds in this package, which tell you that just put them in the fridge. Don't leave them outside. These are the seeds. When you read things like this, you know they require cold stratification. And the process in good nurseries, they've already started this. So when you plant them, maybe you'll be more successful. Okay, so the other thing that we used to do, okay, I used to work in a lab. That was a while ago. We'd do this. This is like a seed planting template. So you take this, you take a print of the bottom. When you have seeds which are, well, precious in the sense they're extremely expensive, you want to make sure they grow, and you want to make sure that you do get them in there. This is what we would use. We would use something called blotting paper. You don't have to. Coffee filter works. We take a hole punch. You make a pattern. You literally punch. So there are 9 holes in this. I don't do more than 9 holes in a milk jug. You place it. Imagine there's soil in it because that one's dripping. You place it like this, and then you place the seeds on it, in the holes, or you place the seeds next to the hole. Because this paper is white, a lot of times you can see what you're planting. And then you could just kind of gently push it inside this hole. And this is one of the techniques that really does work. So, okay, then, so we did that. Okay, anytime you start winter sowing, you're going to look at the seed package. Oh, by the way, I have some seeds for you guys if you want. Later on, you can help yourselves. So, yeah, then after all this is done, a lot of people will take, for example, the Venetian blinds. You cut pieces of those, old ones, not your current ones. Take pieces of those, write the name on it. If you're using a Sharpie, just remember Sharpie fades, especially when you have to label the jug. No matter how many you do or how less you do, still try and label the jug. That way you won't forget. Some people just write numbers or they have tags. Then they will go back and they have like a log. They will write the number and the number on the log. And that's how they kind of keep tabs. But the easiest way, I think there's a picture in your handout. These are oil markers or paint pens. If you get a hold of those are really good. They last a lot better outside. And you label your jug. A lot of people recommend you label the bottom of the jug first, because this is the part that doesn't get exposed to the sun. The sun fades pretty much everything. So if you want, you can put a little piece of duct tape and label at the bottom. It's not necessary if you use paint pens, and you actually mark them inside. So after that, you stick these readied containers out in the garden. You want to try and put this. So I should have bought my crate. So we have these milk crates, or not milk crates. They have like, I forgot the name. Yeah, like storage containers, but they have like slats on the bottom. Place these in there. So for one thing, this won't flip open. And of course, before you place this in there, you're going to seal this, because the idea is to make a greenhouse. Where's my tape? Okay, here. Usually this is what we do. So the edges of this is roughly about 18 inches around. Okay, I'll put my finger in there just to make sure it's covered. Because this is, okay. Try not to do that, but yeah. You're gonna grab a pair of scissors. Let me get a pair of scissors. Before that, make sure this edge is clean. because you need the duct tape to adhere. It's not, you don't have to be too finicky about it, but it kind of helps. So you measure out, you draw about 18 inches on whatever surface you're working. Place this down here. Usually I rip it, but for you guys, I'm going to cut it. Kind of becomes a little unwieldy after you put the soil in. So this is a little short. This is better though, actually. Go 20 inches, 24. You just want to be able to close this completely. Not holding the bottom. That's it. That's what you do. Okay, I'm just going to label this for you guys, so that will be a complete. So you look at the packet.
Excuse me, Rashmi, there was a question from someone on Zoom.
Yeah.
They wanted to know, won't these freeze outside?
Yeah, they will. That's the whole idea. Okay, I'll come to that part. So this is, you put the name and you put the date. Wait, what's the date? Okay. So there's your first jug already. You're going to place this outside, not in the direct sun, not in your front yard, please. Put it in an area which is kind of protected, but it still receives snow and rain. You will stick these outside. So I will stick this outside tomorrow, today rather. It's going to snow tonight. It's going to get covered in snow. It's going to get covered in ice. It's going to just sit there. And then 4 to 6 weeks later, the seeds will sprout. This is essentially, so if you look at your handout, there's one picture. It's this one. It says, leave the jugs outside in a protected area. The jugs should receive water from either rain or snow. Okay, so that's one thing. When you put these outside, it's kind of nice. You don't have to really worry about them too much, but you do need to see. You need to check them, so you need to put them in an area where you can walk out and access them. This kind of, so you don't want it to dry out. If it looks like it's too wet, it's still this wet. After, if it's still this wet, it's all right, but it'll drain eventually. You don't want it to dry out. So one of the things we do is we stick, if it looks like you're, it has more of a tendency to dry out, you put it in a tray and you could water it from below through these holes that you vented it. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you'd water it from below, or what you can do is gently water from the sides so you don't disturb the seed, and then you let it drain. Most of the times I'd rather sit it in a tray of water. But one or the other, either of them works. You stick them outside, so roughly around, if I stick these echinacea, so if you look at the package, it tells you that, okay, plant in early spring after all danger of frost. We're not worried about that. 4 to 6 weeks, this should start budding or it should start sprouting. You'll see these tiny, really tiny little green things, and that's fine. It might get cold again after that. Don't worry about it. You open this. If it gets too hot, you rip it open and you vent it. So those little tiny sprouts, if it gets super cold, you let them be. They kind of survive because their rooting system is getting much stronger. You wanted that to, you want to leave it at that. And honestly, so if you look at the following pictures, you can see the tiny sprouts, and then that'll be your next step. So it does work. It is extraordinarily successful. We don't want to plant too much. That's my only concern. So they have something called Hunko seedlings method, which you throw in a lot of seeds and it kind of grows. All of them sprout, and then you remove all this. So you'll have the whole thing, you'll have like, lots of plants sprouted in here. So what they recommend is you rip this open. This is, that's the best part. You can actually, you're not going to be reusing these containers. You can if you want to, but this is pliable. It's like using one of those ice cube trays with a silicone base, which you can pop out. So this is the same thing. You kind of just pop it out, rip it open, and you take that entire thing and you hunk it down. So it's called Hunko seedlings. You can break it apart. It's nice when you're a first-time winter sower that you can actually do that. I'd prefer that you put a few seeds in there than just one seed per hole. Let's put it that way. I'm a little more conservative that way when it comes to planting, but this is a tried and tested method. Oh, by the way, this was actually started by a lady named Trudy Davidoff, who had more seeds than indoor space. So she came up with this technique, and I believe she's in Long Island, and then the USDA recognized this whole thing. You can go online, you can do a lot more research now. There are actually a lot of pages that you can access. One of the things is, okay, so once the seedlings sprout, so you have a lot of, here we go. So one of the things that I was explaining is, why do you use soil that is potting soil with compost in it? You can use regular potting soil, but the thing is that you have a seed, and the first thing that it grows is a root. Little bit of, this is where the shoot comes out of. So as this grows bigger and you get the first true leaves, so your first, not first true leaves, your first leaves, first two set of leaves that you see, they are not true leaves. They are rudimentary leaves. They actually draw nutrition from the cotyledons. These then, as the plant grows bigger, so these will kind of, they'll wither away. They've become, it has drawn, and then this will be the next set of leaves. For this next set of leaves to be successful, you need to make sure that this plant is getting nutrition, it is getting enough food. This is done. This nourished this one, which is its rudimentary leaves. So you would benefit from using potting soil with compost, especially since you're not monitoring it as much as a person would indoors. There was a very interesting thing. So the University of Minnesota actually published this winter sowing, and they had a link to something called permaculture. Let's see where I wrote that down. So it's Permaculture Research Institute. So what they recommend is, the Permaculture Research Institute, is that you're going to provide nitrogen. So to make it, okay, so they say that you can provide 1 cup of urine to 10 cups of water and water these. it's not necessary, but that is one way you can, you know, give them a boost of nitrogen. So, okay, so yeah, so that's, okay, once the seedlings are once the seedlings are past this stage, you have one true set of leaves, and wait till, you know, it grows a little more. You can then transplant it outside, or you can transplant them into separate pots, depending on, or you can leave them in there. Wait for it till it's roughly your first frost, like not first frost, sorry, till the danger of frost has passed. Then you can plant outside. But they actually do survive in here for a long time. You can, like, there are people who have grown tomatoes in here. They've come up from the top. So they're like, you can see the plants are like completely in there, but they're really healthy. One of the things is when you do anything indoors, you have something called damping off a fungus. So suppose you have a setup indoors. You have to worry about mite, you have to worry about damping off, you have to worry about the plants getting spindly, the plants dying off. So this is something that you avoid all that. You also don't have to worry so much about the hardening off process in this, because they're already growing outside. So I hope you guys try this sometime. I'd love to see pictures. You can, yeah, go ahead.
Do you plant the whole thing, or you break it up?
So essentially, when you have, if you plant about, say, 9 seeds and all 9 of them grow, then you can actually just cut it open. You can, you know, you're gonna get more milk jugs. It's not something that is rare. So you just take it out, you rip it open, and then you take the seedlings. You can just dump it out, literally, like slide it out, not dump it out, slide it out, and you can separate out the seedlings and then grow them. By that time, they are pretty strong. They're like, their root system is pretty well developed, and it is pretty, so even people who like grow vegetables, they do use this method. People who have large areas that they have to cover, these are excellent for growing natives. Okay, so there was so with all your references at the base. Okay, so one of the questions that is asked is how long can you keep sowing, winter sowing? So there's something called a sweater weather metaphor. So if you go out and you feel that you need a sweater, a light jacket, you can still keep winter sowing. The minute you feel you don't, stop winter sowing. Anything that are like annuals, plant them a lot later on. So you have, I don't know if I have given you. So okay, so in January, you would plant hardy annuals, perennial flowers, like Brussels sprouts. Those are cold weather crops. February, you'd have hardy herbs, you have peas. You can grow these outside. Peas, normally, I find that it's just easier to stick them directly in the ground. St. Patrick's Day, they do really well. March, you can grow, so March is coming up. You have annual flowers, you have tender perennials, you have lettuce and tender herbs. April, you have tomatoes and peppers. Those come into warm weather crops. So just wait a while. Do not sow, when you do winter sowing and you start off in January, so you can start with winter solstice. That's the earliest you can start winter sowing. Do not plant things like beans. They kind of tend to rot. Wait a little more, find out how long it takes for that germination to occur, and that's the table that you would follow for that. You would, anything that's native, so you look at the labels. So if you have, like for example, so you look at the words in that, you get a package of seeds, you look at the words. So you have like, you have the origins, you have Alpine, you have Canadiensis, you have Canadiensis, Siberian. So all the words, or if anything has the word weed in it, Jimson weed, anything that would be considered native plants. Those you can plant pretty early because the seeds would drop from the plants and they would sow on their own in your garden. So anything that requires pre-chilling or stratification, like for example this thing that I showed you earlier, these you can sow a lot earlier. Anything that has more of like a large like beans have a large cotyledon, they do rot. So that's the only thing that you wouldn't sow early. So you have things like colonize or self-sow. Yeah, go ahead.
So, a couple of questions. So, right now,
Yeah.
here in New Jersey, it's okay to put seeds in this,
Yes.
kind of method that needs stratification. We still have enough time left in the
Yes,
season
we
for them to
actually
get
do have enough
stratification?
time left. I just got my seeds yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm going to start now, 4 to 6 weeks. Essentially, that'll be, as long as it doesn't get too warm. I mean, we are expecting a winter storm tomorrow, so
Right.
it's kind of up and down. The minute you see that it's too warm, just open the lid, and that should be okay. But yeah, definitely. So I'm going to hand out seeds. Lavender does require stratification, but it's a shorter time period. So if you want to plant lavender right now, absolutely. This is what I'm going to be doing today. Yeah.
The one jug that you have there has a very wide mouth. Is that?
Okay. Yeah.
something
Oh,
that-
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. Is
Um,
that something that would work? Does that create a greenhouse
Yes, that is exactly it. So
with the cap off?
yes, so no cap off. What you would do is you would drill holes in here. This
Okay.
opening is too wide. You would, if you want to do, what we do is you take a cap of a milk jug and just literally do that, and you sink it in. So what you do is when you do, you punch it in this way. The hole shouldn't be up like this. So don't start it this way, do it this way. So it's almost like a funnel. So you do multiple holes. If you feel that this is actually getting too much water, you can actually punch a lot more holes at the bottom. So you kind of, there are a lot of people who do winter sowing in many different containers, including Ziploc bags, if you can believe it. Go online, it's amazing what people have sown in. They've grown stuff in styrofoam containers, they've covered with a lid. Anything that grows outside, any kind of perennial that is native to this area, they really do well. But this is like one of the original things that was started with a milk jug. So that is what I was trying to explain it with this one. But yeah, I was really excited to get this container.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just
Yeah.
wanted to add there was a question on the website.
Yeah.
One person wanted to know if you could reiterate about watering before you put it outside. And then there was a comment made that there are Facebook groups that talk about winter sowing, and there's a website called wintersown.org
Yeah.
that discusses Trudy Davidoff's method.
Yes. So winter sowing, like I mentioned before, Trudy Davidoff was the one who actually did a lot more with this, and she was the one who coined the term. And then in 2006, the USDA picked it up. So when you okay, they want me to let them know how much water to put in the soil. Okay, so what you would do is, so this is dry soil, yeah? It looks like, well, it's dry soil. You put water in it enough to turn it into, so when you mix it, this is what you should see. Cake batter, for lack of, and then this is what you would add, and then you let it drain, as it has on the. Sorry about that. So you would let it drain. Oh yeah, that was one of the things. When you do stick this in outside, you do not put it in direct sunlight. You put it in a shaded area, but it should receive enough water for it to stay moist. You can see like little bits of algae at times, little bits of green algae, but it shouldn't completely cover the surface. That means you have problems. That means you have too much water. So go ahead and essentially do this. So you haven't put a lot of holes here. So you do that. in the garden, of course. No, this is a little difficult. So you make slits for that to drain. Once you do that, you take care of that problem. Normally it takes care of itself. A little bit of green algae is fine. Yeah. A lot of the other sites, so for example, it's if you look at the back, there's psu.edu, there is Illinois Extension, then Rutgers.edu will give you information of how to plant native seeds. So that is extremely, all these sites, essentially it's like a plethora of sites on there. You can click on anything. I'd rather click on something which is like an educational site where they have put in plenty of research, and you won't hear you know, things that people can contest. But yes, the winter sowers group is it's really big now, and it's grown exponentially, and it's a good place to, you know, get more information, or if you have any doubts, you can always put it in. But yeah, there's the other thing. If you ever want to reach out to the Master Gardeners of Passaic County, you can do that. Give them a call. We have a helpline. So if you have any problems, they can help you. Even if they don't know it, they can research it out for you. So that was the other thing. Okay, so yep, I think hopefully I've, you know, inspired you guys to start you know, a layer of jugs. Just extremely important, don't put it in direct sunlight. That kind of, you know, you'll get a lot of you'll have a lot more problems. So, but yeah, shade, make sure that it's still watered. So yeah, that's it for this. I did mention this is a vinegar jug, and it's not anti-freeze jug. So I just want to reiterate that do not buy any, do not get anything, or even if you, it looks amazing. I went to this place to get the wipers on my car changed, and I saw a lot of these jugs lying in a corner, and I was like so excited. Then I see that little thing that says, you know, it has a skull and crossbones. The minute you see that, just kind of stay away from it. But yeah, so you know, good luck. I really hope you guys grow a lot of seeds, a lot of plants this year. So, and when you put them in the garden and you want to protect them, this is what you would do. This is one of the techniques that I have done before during COVID time when we had plenty of time, and I learned a few things, but this was one of the. So these are cloches. They're made with chicken wire. This is the one that I had in place. So usually if you get anything smaller, there's like an inch, and then there's 3/4 of an inch. You can take the 3/4 of an inch. I would prefer that. It's more, you know, it gives you more protection, I guess. So this is what I used. You can use actual like glass cloches, which are, you know, they look like this, but they're glass. So you can use that as a mold, or you can use that as a support for it. You start off with a length of wire piece. Start off with the lowest part. The biggest part is what you would do first, and then go on to complete the top. Don't try doing it the other way. It doesn't work. So this is the other kind. This actually was more useful in a way. So you can find a lot of these in garden centers or online, but it's kind of fun making your own. So give it a try. There's a little rim at the bottom where you can put these in. So that goes in the ground, and this holds it in place.
You use that one after you plant them?
So yeah, I'm sorry. So you have your plants, and they're like little seedlings. You don't want the rabbits eating them. So this is what you would make. Yeah, thanks. I should have started with that. So yeah, these are your, and I hope I have inspired you to, you know, start winter sowing at least. But yep, that's about it.
Well, again, I want to remind you that this program will be posted on the Wayne Public Library YouTube page. It's the easiest way to search it is to go to Google and type in Wayne Public Library YouTube, and you will see a variety of lists and playlists that you can then follow up on. I want to make sure that you're all signed up also to get our newsletter. You can sign up on our website to have that directly sent to your email, or you can pick up a printed copy here. We do a monthly program at the beginning of the month, and then we have a mid-monthly with other informational recommendations and such for you. So I want to thank you for all coming today, and thank you, Rashmi, for coming.
Thank you for having me.